Discover the magic behind the cameras and join Britain's biggest celebration of cinema. The British Academy Film Awards, presented live by Jonathan Ross. Next Sunday at 9 on BBC One.
Everyone going for the Sport Relief Mile. Sign up for your nearest mile online or call 0845 605 8000.
Now on BBC One, the news with Michelle Hussain.
An inquiry is ordered into claims that anti-terror police bugged a Labour MP. It's alleged the MP Sadiq Khan was recorded as he visited a Muslim suspect being held in prison. The pro-Western Boris Tadic claims victory tonight in the Serbian presidential election. The protesters who say eco-towns won't be as green as the developers promise. And a new look: France outclassed Scotland at Murrayfield. Good evening. An inquiry has been ordered into allegations that a Labour MP was bugged while visiting a constituent in prison. It's claimed that the MP Sadiq Khan was recorded by anti-terrorist police during meetings with a suspect at Woodhill Prison in Milton Keynes. The Shadow Home Secretary David Davis says he raised the issue in a letter to the Prime Minister in December. Downing Street has denied receiving it. Our political correspondent Laura Kunsberg reports.
Behind bars, have the security services been breaking the rules? Prisoners' conversations with their lawyers and their MPs are meant to be confidential. But it's claimed discussions between the Labour MP and one of his constituents were secretly recorded by the security services.
If it were the case that constituents were having their conversations with members of Parliament bugged, then it clearly means that the whole relationship and basis upon which that relationship has been based for decades and, dare I say, centuries, is undermined.
Babar Ahmed asked to see his MP and childhood friend, Mr Khan, when he was being held in Woodhill Prison. He's fighting extradition to America on terror charges. Their meetings took place in a visitors' hall, where it's claimed at least 6 tables may have concealed a bug. Hollowed-out partitions underneath the tables could have contained a listening device with a microphone and transmitter. The bug would then relay the conversation to a receiver in the ceiling so the security services could hear exactly what was being said. It's potentially a serious breach of a decades-old convention introduced in Harold Wilson's government that says people's communications with their MPs should never be secretly recorded.
What we don't have in this country are sufficiently robust and clear and transparent safeguards so that we can all have more confidence in the authorities. Now, the fact that this is a Member of Parliament and one of the few Muslim members of Parliament just makes the story potentially more dangerous for this feeling of trust and confidence.
Jack Straw, the Justice Secretary, has ordered an immediate inquiry. But the Shadow Home Secretary says he warned the Prime Minister about this in a letter more than 6 weeks ago, saying the policy may have been breached in relations to communications between a constituent detained as a terrorist suspect and his Member of Parliament. But Downing Street says they never received the letter.
If it didn't arrive or if they lost it, well, so be it. The simple truth is that there are still some very serious questions underpinning this.
There will be a political spat about who knew what when in this case, and it will do little to smooth sometimes strained relations between Muslim communities and the government.
And Laura's with me now here in the studio. Laura, so another inquiry, but if it does confirm that this bugging took place, how damaging is that for the government?
Well, bugging in prisons itself is not an unusual thing, but this would be a highly uncommon event. And in the words of the Justice Secretary, Jack Straw, completely unacceptable. He has ordered an immediate inquiry, which suggests that he's taking it very seriously. And MPs across the board are angry that this appears to breach the decades-old convention that conversations they might have with any of their constituents should be allowed to be kept confidential. There's also the suggestion that the Prime Minister may have been told about this in a letter that he did or did not receive and didn't do anything, although, of course, Downing Street do deny that. And there's also a puzzle of who ordered this in the first place. Now, bugging in prison would not have to be sanctioned by a British politician. It could be sanctioned by a high-ranking police officer. But Babar Ahmed, the constituent in question here, doesn't face any charges in this country, but he's wanted in the United States to face terror charges there. That raises an intriguing possibility that this monitoring of him and his conversations with Mr. Khan could have been, in fact, ordered by authorities across the Atlantic.
OK, Laura, thanks very much. Now, Labour's Scottish leader Wendy Alexander has been reported to Scotland's public prosecutor for failing to publicly declare campaign donations. The decision was taken by the watchdog in charge of standards in the Scottish Parliament. It could result in a police investigation. But Ms. Alexander says she was only following official guidance. Now, the pro-Western president of Serbia, Boris Tadic, has been re-elected. In the last hour, his nationalist rival Tomislav Nikolic, who favours closer ties with Russia, has conceded defeat. The contest had been seen as a battle over the future direction of the country. Well, our correspondent Nick Thorpe is in Belgrade tonight. Nick, so the stakes could hardly have been higher in this election.
Very high stakes indeed, Michelle, and Boris Tadic, the incumbent president, as you say, is claiming victory. He portrayed this campaign, this battle, very much as about the future direction of Serbia, whether towards the European Union, peace and prosperity, as he put it, within the European Union. He said that was the only choice for Serbia. Boris Tadic, his background coming from the democratic opposition, so he was appealing really here in Serbia to all the people who had supported him, worked with him in the past to defeat Slobodan Milosevic. His rival, Mr. Nikolic of the Radical Party, a hardline nationalist, he was really fighting. He said that Serbia had no choice, that they should rally behind him in order to try to save the province of Kosovo. Kosovo, of course, central to Serbia's history, this small province in the south of Serbia, 15% of its territory. All Serbia's political leaders say that Kosovo should remain within Serbia, but very clearly in the next few days we're expecting Kosovo to declare independence. So a very traumatic time ahead for Serbia. Boris Tadic says he will lead Serbia confidently through that period. And as we speak now tonight, there are celebrations on the streets of Belgrade. Mr. Tadic's supporters out in force, and you can hear perhaps in the background there the horns, people celebrating this victory tonight.
OK, Nick, thank you. At least 11 people have died and over 90 have been injured in a suicide bombing in Sri Lanka. It comes amid a weekend of violence just as the country prepares to celebrate 60 years of its independence. Today's attack happened at the main railway station in the capital, Colombo, from where Roland Berg reports.
The bomber struck on platform 3 of Colombo's busiest railway station. The bags of passengers unlucky enough to be standing nearby were left scattered after the blast. Many people were killed and more were wounded. It was a suicide attack carried out by a woman. Police cordoned off the area, although some trains were still passing through. The government blamed the Tamil Tigers, but the rebels, who want an independent state for the Tamil minority, denied responsibility. Last month, the government pulled out of a ceasefire between the two sides. It had long been ignored on the ground.
This is the second attack this weekend. On Saturday, a bus was blown up in the centre of the country. And both these attacks come as Sri Lanka is preparing to mark 60 years of independence from Britain.
Not far from the railway station, rehearsals were underway for a grand parade. It will be not just a ceremonial occasion, but a display of military might from an army once again fighting a civil war. The government aims to crush the Tamil Tigers, who control a swathe of territory, before the year is out. but it will be bloody. This weekend alone, in fighting and bombings, more than 60 people have been killed. Roland Burke, BBC News, Colombo.
9 British soldiers have been arrested in Cyprus after a pub brawl in the resort of Ayia Napa. The soldiers are all serving with 2 Royal Regiment of Fusiliers based at the Deucalion garrison on the island. They were charged with a range of public order offences after the incident on Friday night. Plans to give new mothers their own maternity nurse to help them care for babies in the first week of their lives are being considered by the Conservatives. They're studying the Dutch system, where nurses spend up to 6 hours a day in people's homes. But Labour say the plans are unfounded and uncosted. They're green, clean, and the government hopes they'll solve our housing shortage. But not everyone is a fan of eco-towns. As ministers draw up a shortlist for new sites, a protest march has been held by those opposed to one such development near Stratford-upon-Avon. Our correspondent Daniel Bircher reports.
Could this be the site of one of the most cutting-edge green towns in Britain, a zero-carbon sustainable community? The government wants 10 of them by 2020, and this site is one of dozens submitted. But not everyone here wants an eco-town, green or not. They're not against the principle, but the location.
There's nothing wrong with an eco-town, but this is just the wrong place, and that's what we're protesting about.
We don't have the jobs, we don't have the facilities, and we really feel it's much better built somewhere else.
Let's look at the carbon footprint of the amount of cars that are going to be there and take that against the benefits of it being an eco-town.
Transport is one issue. The old rail link to Stratford is now just a footpath. A single carriage remains as a cafe. But the developers are looking at restoring another train link and say £100 million will be spent on infrastructure.
Believe me, we're serious about the environmental content of these proposals and about what we call sustainability, which is not just the environment, it's about making sure that there is a solid community and a solid economic base.
The kinds of technologies that could be used have already been developed on a smaller scale, but some of the new schemes could have up to 20,000 houses.
If this proposal goes ahead, 600 acres of land here will be turned into homes, schools and businesses, but it's all still in the early stages of development. No firm decisions have been taken on where any of these eco-towns would go.
The government says the schemes chosen will go through the full planning process. The shortlist is expected later this month. Daniel Bircher, BBC News, Long Marston.
In Kenya, the opposition leader Raila Odinga has called for the deployment of foreign peacekeepers to stem the violence sparked by the disputed presidential election. Mr. Odinga says the Kenyan army is not neutral and the police are often misused. Thousands of people are still fleeing their homes to escape the fighting. Our correspondent Ola Giran has been to Karatina in Kenya's central province.
United by faith and by fear, a congregation of the displaced in the town of Karatina. Local Kikuyu tribesmen warned them to leave. Now more than 200 are living inside this Baptist church, guarded by police.
Amen.
Many were rescued by the pastor, who's trying to heal this torn community. There were handshakes between the two sides, the displaced and their former neighbours, and a promise of security from local leaders.
I'm here to guarantee the people here of peace. And I want to ask the people here to feel safe and live safely.
But outside in the churchyard, those words got a muted response. The politicians have gone now, but the displaced remain. The numbers have been growing all week. Some were brought here after spending days hiding inside their own homes. Now they're being told it's safe to go back. But after all the fear and intimidation, will anyone be ready to give up this refuge? Do you feel it would be safe now to leave the church?
No. No.
Anybody?
No.
They told us threats are still coming from Kikuyus who want other tribes out. This woman, too frightened to be filmed, went home yesterday. She says her neighbours threatened her with rape if she ever came back. Soon the congregation had retreated into the church to pray for themselves and their nation and to hope they can wait things out. Orla Giran, BBC News, Karatina.
Now with news from today's football matches and Rugby Union's Six Nations Championship, it's over to Sean. Hello there.
Michelle, thanks very much indeed. Scotland's Six Nations campaign got off to a losing start with a 27-6 defeat by France at Murrayfield. Yesterday, Wales upset England and many predicted the Scots to surprise the defending champions today. But as James Munro reports, Scotland failed to pass their French test.
France are the tournament favourites, but a team in transition after a disappointing World Cup. So Scotland knew that a home tie at Murrayfield would provide them with a great chance to upset the odds, particularly if Dan Parks could scramble over the odd drop goal. But France can always rely on the creativity of their back line. Vincent Clerc and Cedric Heymans combined well and sneaked in a forward pass before Clerc scored the opening try. The French 15 contained only 6 players from last year's World Cup squad, and it was one of their debutants, Julien Malzieu, who stretched their lead further, chasing down his own kick and making the most of some embarrassing Scotland defence. So much for a Scottish surprise. And if it worked for Malzieu, why not for Vincent Clerc? Again, the ball fell kindly for the French.
And Vincent Clerc caps a stunning performance from the wing.
It was turning into a desperately disappointing afternoon for Scotland. Rarely did they threaten a try, and even when Chris Patterson came on to give them hope, the end result was a knock-on from Chris Cussiter. France deserved to win, and they did it convincingly on a perfect day for their new coach Marc Livremont. And Scotland will draw little comfort from their performance. James Munro, BBC News.
There were 2 games in the Barclays Premier League this afternoon. In the early kick-off, Newcastle were held to a 1-1 draw at home to Middlesbrough. The home side thought they'd taken an early lead when Michael Owen poked home after this fumble by Mark Schwarzer, only to see the effort harshly disallowed for a foul on the Borough keeper. But Owen did eventually put Newcastle ahead on the hour mark, heading in a free kick, which sent the manager Kevin Keegan and the Geordie faithful into raptures. Late on, though, Robert Huth's looping header beat the Newcastle defence to earn Middlesbrough a deserved point and deny Keegan his first victory since his return to the club. Relegation-threatened Fulham picked up 3 valuable points in their 2-1 victory at home to Aston Villa. Fulham were 1-0 down, but they fought back and Jimmy Bullard scored the winner from a free kick with just 5 minutes of normal time remaining. In the Scottish Cup, Hibernian and Rangers drew 0-0 in their 5th round match at Easter Road. And just before I go, American football's Super Bowl takes place tonight. It's the New England Patriots versus the New York Giants, and you can watch it live over on BBC Two. Coverage starts in a few minutes' time, so it's going to be a late night, Michelle.
It will indeed. Super Bowl Sunday. Thanks very much, Sean. And the main news tonight, there's to be an inquiry into claims that police bugged a Labour MP's conversation with a Muslim constituent in prison. Coverage continues on News 24 through the night, but from all of us here, a very good night.
Hello again. It looks a bit mixed over the week ahead. Not too bad for tomorrow, mind you. We should see some good spells of sunshine around and just a few showers. We've got some rain at the moment though, and it could turn heavy for a while as it slowly pushes its way eastwards. After the rain, the winds become very much lighter, skies will clear, just a few showers, but with these sort of temperatures in western areas there could be a few icy patches. Not quite so cold further east. Very quickly we'll see the cloud and rain pushing away into the North Sea. And then some good sunny spells will follow on behind, passing showers for England and Wales, Northern Ireland for a while. The bulk of the showers, though, arriving in Scotland, the west of Scotland, driven on by some gusty winds. Some of these showers could be heavy, possibly even wintry. Very few showers getting into eastern Scotland. It may stay dry all day in Aberdeen with some sunshine. Sunshine for Northern England, just a few showers in the afternoon, but very few showers through the Midlands. Some lengthy spells of sunshine and just the odd shower across East Anglia and the southeast of England. Temperatures here 9 or 10 degrees, so that's a little bit warmer than it was during today. For the southwest as well, similar temperatures, and again the odd shower dotted about in the afternoon, but some sunny spells and a bit more sunshine arriving in Wales. It will be breezy for England and Wales. Stronger winds though for Northern Ireland, but it should be quite sunny through the afternoon. It does turn wet and windy overnight. The rain could linger across Scotland and Northern Ireland on Tuesday, and then we see some heavy blustery showers across England and Wales with a risk of hail and thunder.
Next on BBC One, Lessons in Life for Michael Douglas and Toby Maguire.
Do you see Chris Skelton?
Roger that.
DS Ray Carling?
Is it me or the Tom's getting smarter?
Jane Hunt.
My reputation precedes me.
Ashes to Ashes, from the makers of Life on Mars.
Oh, I could kiss you.
Don't hold back.
Thursday at 9 on BBC One.
We're gonna have a baby.
It's mine, isn't it?
I don't think I could bear it if we weren't friends. 300k is 300k. It's not about the money.
What shouldn't I tell her, your little secret?
Sam, please.
Mistresses continues Tuesday at 9 on BBC One. And if you missed the last episode, it's available now on BBC iPlayer.
You're never too old to learn something. Now on BBC One with very strong language, Michael Douglas and Tobey Maguire star in Wonder Boys.